carry the brunt. How many is Senegal willing to put? What is the total of what Gambia has to put forward? What about Ghana and the opposition to going into a conflict that is very, very strong in Ghana? Perhaps our president needs to pause as our president and give us a clear body language, and beyond the body language, a clear statement, because also there is that constitutional dimension of the problem. He didn't receive the
and I want to get to
Senate.
that in a minute, Prof, because, you know, that's Section 5 of the 1999 Constitution, and we'll look at that in just a moment. But I want to talk about, you know, something you raised earlier, negotiation, which is still ongoing in Mali, Burkina Faso. And some people will say, look, ECOWAS for a long time has been called a toothless bulldog that just barks and doesn't bite. And perhaps it is time for ECOWAS to start biting. Because if you just continue to negotiate, like we see in Niger, the military junta has already started creating its government, appointing ministers. And that if you continue to do that, just negotiating and say, okay, we're giving you 2-3 years to hand over to a democratically elected president, that you are making it easy for other countries to say, look, or militaries of other countries to say, we want to do the same thing, since we will get, all that happens is just negotiation and time, you know, to hand over through elections.
Well, it's fine what you have said, that other people will intervene, military will intervene, because that argument is neither here or there, because people will carry out their coup if they are facing a bad governance that the rest of Africa and ECOWAS is not talking about, irrespective of whatever you are willing to do. At times, some of these things border on life and death. However, I want to say that negotiations have worked in the past. There was the restoration of President Tijan Kaba in Sierra Leone. A number of pressures were put, and he was able to return like about a year plus later. And of course, there was also the pressure of the problems that were being faced on the ground in Sierra Leone. However, to want to say that ECOWAS is no longer a toothless bulldog should not be the opposite of actually killing ECOWAS, because the possibility of killing ECOWAS is very much there as a result of having to take ECOWAS into the battlefield. It's not get something right. It's not that your Niger is boiling and people are being assassinated and killed left, right, and center, and as a result, you are going in to help on humanitarian grounds. In these grounds, you are going on a political basis. We have not even looked at whose interests are we talking about. But you are going in on a political basis to restore, quote, democracy. Of course, that raises a lot of questions as to which of the countries in ECOWAS is democratic, including our own. We deceive ourselves all the time when we are saying, oh, Nigeria has been democratic since 1999. It's a lie, it's a joke. But we need not get into that. I can give you a small anecdote of a Gambian friend of mine that normally laughs at me each time we gathered to eat lunch when I used to work for the UN in Nairobi. And he would call all the other people, come and see this guy. Do you know a country that sells what it doesn't have and buys what it has a lot of? And everybody will say, no, which country is that? You say, oh, you don't know? That's Nigeria. It is trying to sell democracy to other people. It's not democratic. And it is also buying a lot of petrol from outside. We don't have a functioning refinery. So we should think about all these things and the overall international
and Prof,
situation
in just a moment, we will look at if, you know, whether this talk about a governance deficit in West Africa, if that is enough for a military takeover. But that's after this break. Stay with us.
Experience information and entertainment like never before as TVC Breakfast takes your weekends to a whole new level. Introducing TVC Breakfast Weekend Edition, your ultimate source of thrilling sports updates, insightful political analysis, and captivating entertainment news. Stay in the know with what's trending, catch up with the latest in sports, and immerse yourself in the latest buzz from the world of music and movies. Your weekends are no longer just days off, but moments packed with knowledge, excitement, and enjoyment. TVC Breakfast Weekend Edition, only on TVC News, starting 2nd September 2023.
It's not your regular show. It's an online interactive session where I will share my views on the everyday issues that cut across politics, security, health, current affairs, governance, and so much more. I am passionate about our country. I choose to support any conversation geared towards building a better Nigeria. I am Babajide Kolaji Otitoju. Join me every Saturday on TVC News YouTube channel as I discuss Nigeria and the world at large on the show, Issues with Jide.
Information is power, information is security, information is knowledge. On Labor Lens, we believe that working people around the world have real questions of their own. They want to know how the world of work operates, what it means to the employer of labor, how policies affect workers in the workplace. On Labor Lens, I ensure we engage effectively the organized labor, organized private sector, and government to get out of them information workers are in need of. I am Sharon Ijason, asking questions that make you get sense of the workplace.
There is always more to a story than the screaming headline. The part of a story that is not told casts a shadow. It's like the part of an object that is not reached by light. On TVC News, I'm able to explore the many angles there are to a story, talking to stakeholders, asking the difficult questions, and digging for facts. I believe the viewers are able to make a better decision if they're well informed and understand not just a part, but the complete story. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Lagos is the most visited state in Africa as the 5th largest economy on the continent. Covering the state and its government is no mean feat, it's a busy beat. We go beyond the curtain of tapes to travel in far into the deep.
I want to thank the Lagos State government for the healthcare facility.
To bring stories that cut across all spectrums.
A greater Lagos shall be ours.
We tell you stories that define our collective well-being as Lagosians. I'm Adedoja Salamadini. I live in Lagos, inside Lagos.
Sometimes it's the story that calls. At other times, the people just want to be heard.
School, I need students, but I need teachers.
Can't continue like this.
Their voices were echoing through time itself.
Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Standpoint. We're still looking at the decision by, or the recent response coming from the military chiefs of ECOWAS, saying that a date has been assigned for military intervention in Niger. And I'm still speaking with Professor Babafemi Badejo. Thanks for staying with us.
Thank you very much.
So let's talk about something you raised earlier, which is the Constitution and the Constitution. did reject that letter from the president, he can go ahead without approval. But I want to read this part of the Constitution, Prof, and I would ask you my question on that, which is Section 5 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, that says that notwithstanding the provisions of subsection 4 of this section, the President, in consultation with the National Defense Council, may deploy members of the armed forces of the Federation on a limited combat duty outside Nigeria if is satisfied that the national security is under imminent threat or danger. And that's the question, if really, when you look at the situation, are we under threat? Prof.
I'm going to take Section 5.5. Hello?
Hello, Prof, I can hear you.
Yes, okay. Yeah, I was saying that you shouldn't jump Section 5.4, A and B, and go on to 5.5. Section 5.4A, as you rightly noted, requires that the President obtains the approval of the two houses sitting together in one session before we can declare war. The impression we are being given is that that is not what we are facing. The Section 5.4B focuses on the fact that before you commit Nigerian troops for any combat duty anywhere outside Nigeria, you must receive the approval of the Senate. Senate is saying it didn't reject, but it actually didn't give approval. Okay, so can the President go ahead? I think it's an impeachable offense if the President were to go ahead. But I'm also very conversant of the fact that President Buhari did exactly the same thing in 2017. And that is saying that we are a lawless country in which we are now trying to sell rules-based world to Niger. If our president were to decide that he is going to do what Buhari did in going to the Gambia. Now, Section 5.5 that you quoted was very, very clear. 5.5 makes it clear that if the president feels that we are under imminent threat. So 5.5 is saying you cannot be under attack and people wanting to take over your country, and then you are still looking for Senate that is probably running helter-skelter. You should go in as president for 7 days, and within that 7 days, you come back to seek the consent of the Senate.
I was just going to mention that part.
Yeah, Senate must give its consent within 14 days. I can ask you or any of our listeners.
Which means that the president can actually go into combat, but within 7 days of that actual combat, he then seeks the approval of the Senate, which will happen in 14 days. When you put 14 days and 7 days together, that's about 21 days. And Prof, which means that the president can actually go into combat if he wants to for 21 days before approval.
That's it. Okay.
Please go ahead.
No, what your reading is totally wrong. Please read Section 5.5 in its entirety for our listeners. Or if you want me to read it, the Constitution is not far from me.
Let me get you. You are the expert here, Prof. I want to get your explanation.
Okay. What I'm trying to say is that Section 5.5 said, notwithstanding the provisions of subsection 4 of this section, the president, in consultation with the National Defense Council, may deploy members of the armed forces. It's not that somebody is attacking you and you are a collectivity and you want to gather and say we are going to attack somebody else. Under Section 53 of the UN Charter, in Chapter 8 of that charter, which allows regional efforts, you must, it's a must, obtain the authorization of the United Nations. Section 54 says that you inform the United Nations. They have done that because if you listen to what they communicate when the presidents met the second time, they said, we are hereby informing the Peace and Security Council of the African Union and the United Nations Security, United, what interests are at stake in Niger. The interest of the president who says, I am the sovereign will of Nigeria as elected, and the interest of our National Assembly that says, under the Constitution, I am to determine what, and the combination of the two of them, before even coming anywhere near talking about Nigeria's national interest, because those who gave them the authority is equally. So what is our problem about whether there is a democratic failure? If there was ever a democracy in many of these countries, many of our neighbors, it's a family business in Togo. We all know that. It's a family business in Benin Republic. We all know, because if Bazoum is, except if they're able to do a clean operation that takes charge of the whole of Niger in one single go, takes marine commandos, zoom in, carry Bazoum out or inside into any of the bases that are there. Short of that, it's reasonable to expect that Bazoum will be killed. And if Bazoum is killed, we have a bigger problem. And that is, how do you now negotiate return to constitutional order? You would still have to now be trying to do what you should have done in the first place.
In the canvas. It shows the conation of raw earthen material slabbed, stroked and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move way in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known. For when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty, erected for a century of a century. Speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
Experience information and entertainment like never before as TVC Breakfast takes your weekends to a whole new level. Introducing TVC Breakfast Weekend Edition, your ultimate source of thrilling sports updates, insightful political analysis, and captivating and from the world of music and movies. Your weekends are no longer just days off, but moments packed with knowledge, excitement, and enjoyment. TVC Breakfast Weekend Edition, only on TVC News, starting 2nd September 2023.
It's not your regular show. It's an online interactive session where we share my views on the everyday issues that cut across politics, security, health, current affairs, governance, and so much more. I am passionate about our country. I choose to support any conversation geared towards building a better Nigeria. I am Babajide Kolade Otutoju. Join me every Saturday on TVC News YouTube channel as I discuss Nigeria and the world at large on the show, Issues with Jide.
Every week, Green Angle, in partnership with Wild Aid, will bring you a documentary series on environmental issues affecting Nigeria's amazing biodiversity, from climate change, air pollution, and wildlife conservation. We will be traveling across Nigeria to give you on-the-ground report of the issues affecting our environment. It airs every Saturday at 4:30 p.m. only on TVC News.
Thanks for staying with us. One of the biggest issues in this administration has been the removal of fuel subsidy and its consequences. And this administration of President Bola Tinubu has undoubtedly raised concerns about the potential impact it will have on the Nigerian populace. Now, to mitigate the adverse effects of this decision, President Tinubu has allocated 5 billion naira to each state. This funding, intended for the provision of palliatives, also carries with it the responsibility of prudent management and transparent utilization. In fact, for many Nigerians, state governors must guarantee the accountable and equitable utilization of the allocated money. That's on one hand. There are others who are saying, is this enough? Will this alleviate poverty as it is intended to do? Let's bring in the former National Publicity Secretary of Pan-Niger Delta.
In Nigeria to benefit. We're talking about the cost of food items, cost of transportation, cost of all essential commodities. 5 billion is not enough to cushion the effect of this hardship on Nigerians. We need to find a very good solution before going in to remove subsidy. And even the subsidy in question, where some of us are still doubting if indeed there was subsidy in Nigeria. And because in the past 5 years, only the NNPC, which is government, is the only body importing petroleum products. So the subsidy is being paid to government themselves. Government is out to address the needs of the people. And the needs of Nigerians today is out to kill hunger. And when government do policies that increase the hunger and come up with palliatives that are not reasonable enough to really kill the hunger, that's the question. If governors receive 5 billion and 5 billion is to share 5 billion. I don't know how they want to do it. Free transport only operates within the city. It does not go down to the rural areas. So the 5 billion equation, we are watching how they want to share it for the citizens to benefit from it. For now, we have not seen any.
There are those who say, look, when you look at the precedent set by whether it's the Shopee program or whether it's the COVID-19 palliatives and how it was handled, that this also raised concerns about how state governors might disburse this, that it might become some sort of palliative measures for only political those who are loyalists, rather. Do you also share those concerns about how well this might be disbursed within the states?
Well, just a few years ago, we had palliatives like feed the school children. We had all kinds of loans. It never went Nigerians. Rivers State never had school feeding program. And some of the states in the Niger Delta never enjoyed free school feed. Neither do we have the market women loan. These things went through few persons, and a lot of issues were raised. So when you say palliatives, palliatives in Nigeria has never gone down well. If you want to share food, how will you share the food? We have 774 local governments. In some states, we have over 30, 40 local governments. Some have 8 local governments. Some have just 20-something local government. And you are giving all the states equal amount of money. So how will they share it so that everybody will benefit? Food to every part of the country is also difficult. In my part of Nigeria, if you are going to share food, how are you going to think of the transport costs to the riverine area, where you will take it to the waterside, load it again, and go and load it there before you take it to these people? So these are not measures that can drive down to kill hunger or to kill the suffering in the society. The governors must think very well. those in the Economic Council must think very well. How do we resolve this? We are asking them to quickly ensure that Dangote refinery goes to work. We're asking them to ensure that all the refineries are working so that we don't export crude oil and import crude oil, add the cost together, the shipping costs and other costs, and that makes the cost of petroleum to be high. If we are producing the petroleum locally, the price will be low. And more so, we can also sell our crude oil to our refineries in Naira. So the exchange rate will not have effect on it. By so doing, we will be able to stabilize our petroleum price. But the subsidy they are getting from the petroleum, let's say they say 5 billion. 5 billion times 36 states will be how much? Then how much they said they have saved trillions of naira. So if you have saved trillions of naira, and the trillions of naira cannot effectively reduce hunger in Nigeria, are we progressing or we are progressing? So these are the things government should consider.
All right. Let me get your thoughts on something else, because we want to try and get your reaction to as many issues as we can in the time frame that we have. So first of all, let me get your thoughts on the assignment of ministerial portfolios as we saw this week rather. What's your thought on all the ministers designates and the portfolios they got? And we also know that Pandev has raised questions as to the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs.
Well, the people of Niger Delta are not too happy. We are not happy in the sense that the Ministry of Niger Delta was not mentioned, which is a major tool in the development of Niger Delta. Having said that, you see, government of the president has appointed ministers. Out of the ministers, 25 of the ministers came from the north, and about 20 came from the south. And the jumbo ministries are all given to the north and few to the south. Then we're talking about their performance. Some we have seen the antecedent, they can do better. Some we don't know them until they perform. But right in the Niger Delta, particularly River State, we are so happy that Nyesom Wike is now in Abuja, Federal Capital Territory. We believe it will now lose a grip on the governor. Let the governor run the state as a governor, not as a puppet. We are happy because he will not be coming here to interfere with the governance as he has been doing. So that alone is a plus for the people of River State. And so to other Niger Deltans, yes, 7 of them are there. But we have problems in the Niger Delta because when our sons and daughters are appointed into ministerial level, they seem to forget where they come from. And they never synergize with the regional bodies. They have not been able to help. Some of them work in different directions with the governors. So there's no synergy between the state government and some of these ministers. So to an extent, they are not thinking of development. Unlike the West, when they finish elections and they go into governance, they are thinking of developing the West. But the Niger Delta in particular, for some time now, we have been having all kinds of things that they don't. The ministers, the governors, they think they are above the owners of the state. And so they do whatever they like, and they don't consider what comes into the region. I give you an example. The last Order Board administration, we had the Minister of Transportation who could build railway to Niger Republic. But right in the Niger Delta and the Southeast, there was no railway at all for 8 years. And you are borrowing money with our oil and gas. And who is borrowing the money? It's our own son. And it's not doing anything for us. So if we have people as ministers, it's not enough for them to say, yes, we can develop the place. Look at the East-West Road, for instance. The East-West Road has been there for over 20 years. And up to now, we're still having a problem. Yet this road is not only a Niger Delta road. This road is the gateway to the Nigerian economy, because ports are the gateway to the economy of every country. And most of the ports, one of the Tinkan Island and Apapa, are all linked to the East-West Road. But nobody pay attention to it. When you send your sons there, they don't even care. They don't even behave like Fashola from the West, who was able to improve a lot of the roads in the Southwest. But our own, when they go there, they do different things. We believe Umai, who is a Port Harcourt boy, will be able to consider that, look, the South-South need to derive benefit from this road network. We need to do more roads in the Southwest. There are so many projects that are in the budget in the past that money was budgeted for, and they were diverted to do other projects in the South-South. And these are the things we're looking at. The other ministers, we have Minister of Petroleum and for state, Minister of Gas for state. I hope these people will look at the issues of the pollution, the environmental hazard caused by the production of oil and gas on the people, not just going to defend the nation because they are ministers of Nigeria and their people should die. We don't want.
But if I may quickly comment, we know that there are 3 more ministers who are waiting for security clearance from the DSS, and when that happens, they might also, or if that happens, they might also be sworn in, and one of them is from the Niger Delta region. But are there plans by PANDEV or elders of the Niger Delta to meet with the president? Because he has not said that that ministry has been scrapped. But are there plans to meet with the president to put some of these issues on the table as regarding the Niger Delta region?
Yeah, it's necessary that the leadership will meet with the president, and I think we will do the needful to see that we meet with the president. But remember, in the past, the Niger Delta leaders have met with the former president, where we presented 16-point agenda, and only lip services were made. The vice president also came in and told us a lot of stories, and nothing happened. But I believe Tinubu from the South will be able to appreciate the leadership of the Niger Delta, PANDEV in particular, and the other bodies, the FNFRA in the Southwest, and what is it in the Southeast. Will be able to take them seriously, because these bodies are fighting for the people, and they know the needs of the people, and they can trigger whatever it takes. So if he wants to actually succeed with the economy, I think there's need for him to look for the Niger Delta. Although we have the MD of NDDC, but that cannot be able to solve all the problem. The MD of NDDC will play his role, and the Niger Delta Ministry will also play its role. So we may meet him.
There are those who will say, look, the Niger Delta Ministry has not been that effective, that monies have been disbursed that were not used for the purposes, that some roads have been, tagged NDDC projects for years, not been fixed. Minister upon minister have come and gone, not fixing those roads. And so that perhaps maybe the overall ministries, for example, the Ministry of Works can handle infrastructure in the Niger Delta as well. The Ministry of Environment can handle the environmental issues as well. How do you react to that?
Look, let us get one thing clear. The Ministry of Niger Delta came through Yaradua after a lot of dialogue and consultation. And the assumption at that time was that the Ministry of Niger Delta will be like the Federal Capital Development Authority. While Federal Capital Development Authority is funded, the Ministry of Niger Delta was not funded, except during the Yaradua era and the era of Jonathan. Last year, the budget for Niger Delta Ministry was 10 billion. Both capital and recurrent. What will you do with that? They have not been funding the ministry. And so how will the ministry be effective? We want an effective Niger Delta ministry. This ministry will not only develop infrastructure, they must also look at the environmental hazard in the region. There are a lot of issues affecting Niger Delta that federal government can directly handle. Because if we say, okay, we have done so much for Niger Delta, and these things are not done, the outcry will be on the federal government. Then let's come back to Minister of Niger Delta. When people say, oh, we have this NDDC, why Minister of Niger Delta? You have the East Development Commission. And yet, the Ministry of Agriculture still goes there to do a lot of things. We have the Ministry of Water Resources also going there to do a lot of things. Come to the South. Let the Ministry of Water Resources point to what they have done in the South-South. They cannot point to anything. We have the dams all over the north. We have dam in the South-South. Look at the flood, how it affected us. Was there any dam between the Onitsha axis to the Delta and River State axis? No dam to contain the water. Yet we have the Federal Ministry of Water Resources. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture is also addressing the issue of the north. Let them tell us what they have done in the south, particularly South-South, where they build farms or where they have provided farming implements, or what promotion have they done in terms of agriculture in the south. These ministries are basically addressing the issues of the north. The Minister of Works in the last session was more interested in developing the West. They were not interested in developing. Which road have they developed? Even the East-West road.
The fourth Niger Bridge was developed in that administration, and it's not in the West. A lot of people would say so. I mean, there were other projects that were put together in the South and in the West and in the North as well. But I wish we had enough time to have this conversation. But we're looking forward to that meeting you will have with the president and some of the agenda, or the agenda rather, you would put on the table, and how this administration will respond. Thank you so much for talking to us. Former National Publicity Secretary of Pan Niger Delta, Anaps Saraigbe.
Thank you very much. The time was so short, we could not discuss issues. But maybe next time we can talk.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. And that's where